Hello everybody and welcome to your next C++ Made Easy HD tutorial. And in this tutorial we're going to be learning about another container class called the map class. And you're going to be saying, okay, whatever, the vectors was easy, the stack was easy, the map class should be easy as well. Well, let's just say it should be pretty easy and it's pretty cool as well. The map class gives you a lot more flexibility on stuff that like the vector class and stuff can't give you. So let's start off the tutorial by including the map class and the string class, okay? And to declare a map, this is how we do it, and it's kind of different. So we call map, okay? So what we need first to put in is the identifier or the key type, right? So and you'll understand what a key type is. So right now I will put in a string right there. And after we need to have the values type, so it's going to be equal to, okay? And don't worry if that confuses you, don't be afraid. I'm going to be explaining what all this means in just a second. Okay, so this is the key name. So whenever we create, say, an array or something like array or something, so whenever we have an array of 10 or something, and let's just say let's make it of 2, so I don't have to type a lot. Okay, so let's say I have 2 and 5. Okay, so the key, in order to get this value 2 right over here, I know that it's stored in temp array 0, right? I know it's stored inside there, right? So the key to getting this value right here is the number 0, okay? And if I want to get the number 5, the key to getting number 5 is number 1, okay? So when we specify our map class, we say that our key is a string type, right? So instead, if we wanted, if map was just a regular array and we had 2 things in map, then we would access it by saying map 0, 1 on, and so on and so forth. In this case, we're not specifying that. We're specifying that the identifier or the key is a string type and the value we're storing in is an integer type, okay? Now, make sure you get that. So the key or the identifier is a string, the value is an integer. So what does this mean? So before we even start, in order to, whenever we had a vector or stack or something like that, we call map.push or whatever, right? If you do this for maps and stuff like that, it doesn't work. And they don't have a push or a pop or anything like that. In order to add something to the map, it's as easy as saying map, putting in any key you want, just make sure it matches the same type as in here. So the key I'm going to put there is I'm going to put test, and then we say it's equal to a value. So we say it's equal to a value, and we put another one, so I'll say test2 is equal to 3, so on and so forth, right? And the reason why we can do it like this is because the map cannot contain 2 keys of an equal value, right? So the map doesn't have, so that's just how you allocate it. So you basically just set a key for it, and then we set a value to the key, right? And I never tested it out to see if this actually worked, but I'm assuming that if we do like that, and we put test in there like so, we can set a value to it like so, right? Any way it's possible, right? So it's just like we call a vector.push or stack.push or whatever, right? But the difference is that we are specifying what our identifier is and then our value. So then how do we actually call this value? So if we do setc out, all we have to do is just put map test and then do that. So if we run this program, let's see what we get. We should get the value 2. And as we see, we get the value 2. So this is just like an array. So when we had that temp array example, the identifier for for the number 2, or the key for number 2 was the integer 0. This time we are creating our own identifier. So the compiler by default for arrays and vectors and stuff automatically puts an integer as the key type, right? And it increments it, so on and so forth. For us, we are specifying what our key type is in here, and then we're specifying what the key name is. So now when we want to access it, we access it by the name that we give it to, or whatever value we give it into in the brackets. So when we call map test, it says, okay, what's the value in map test? That value is 2. Let us print that value to the screen. Okay, so for those of you who did not get it, because it's kind of different, it's kind of new. So for maps, you specify the key type, so the identifier type that's you're gonna be identifying it by, and what value you're gonna put into the different types, right? And if you guys have used C# or something like that, it's like equivalent to a dictionary in C#. Probably some differences. Yeah, there are some differences, but there are generally the same concept, right? So what is this? I don't want to just explain this to you, and I don't want to explain to you and then not give you a reasoning for doing this. Okay, so let's say you have in your game you have a screen transition, or let's say that you have let's say you have a weapon. Okay, for example, you have a weapon stored in your text file, right? Now, let's say weapon 1 does a certain amount of damage, weapon 2 does a certain amount of damage, so on and so forth, okay? So what we would do is this would represent the weapon name, and this would represent the amount of damage. So if your player is equipped with weapon number 2, right? Then all we'd have to do is go through the map, right? We just have to store all the weapons and the amount of damage they do, right? So say for example we have weapon 1 and we have weapon 2. Okay, so weapon 1 does 100 damage, weapon 2 does 120 damage. Okay, so if you have, say you're using weapon number 2 and you have that stored in a text file, you load which weapon you're using, then you find out. So say we have a string whatever, and we call this weapon, and it's called weapon 2. So we loaded this from the text file, and this is the weapon that we're actually using. Then we can say map weapon. So whenever we do damage or whatever, so let me just put damage in there. So whenever we do damage, all we would have to do is, based on our text file or whichever weapon they're holding, we can get the correct value. So instead of having to go through a loop and then trying to find out which value it's in or whatever, we can just parse through it and easily find the correct value that we need. So if we run this right here, we should get the value 120, and we do get the value 120. So with the map class, there's a lot of stuff to do with the map class, but essentially everything is the same as the other container classes. The only other difference is that the way you allocate something to it. So this is not to replace regular arrays or something, but it is used if you have if you want to allocate your memory or something, if you want to know what key you're actually using. So I'm gonna end this tutorial here. And I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Hope you look forward to the next one. Don't forget to comment, rate, and subscribe, and don't forget to sign up on my website and post a question on my forum if you need to. So that's it for now. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and